Welcome back to Beyond Tech. So I'm Mike Fry, the Chief Technology Officer at Mercedes-Benz.io. We drive the digital future of Mercedes-Benz, and we own and operate all their e-commerce and marketing websites worldwide. So I'm here with Luís Vicente, Head of QA Engineering, and today we're going to be talking about DevSecops and operations. So nowadays, test automation is key to DevSecops and automation, production software operations, and enabling teams to own and operate their code in production. Let's get started. So first off, what's the difference between QA engineers and software developers, Luís?
Oh, you strike right off to the point.
Right to the point.
All right, so yeah, I guess one of the most key difference between those two roles is the focus. So developers are focusing to meet certain requirements, and quality assurance is there to make sure that those requirements are valid. But where we see quality assurance playing a really important key is to think about different contexts where those requirements will take place. So this can be thinking on more client or customer perspective, putting the same feature in different contexts.
And so that helps developers be more customer focused by having that, where they might be just like heads down trying to drive the requirements and trying to build the software for their requirements.
And I'll say not just that, but increasing the confidence when we are delivering code. So that's the key part, is increasing not just the standards, but increasing as well the confidence while we are delivering code.
So like day to day, QA engineers are writing code, right?
Yeah, in the end, if they are focusing on test automation, yeah, they will writing code. Our profile here is an hybrid profile, so we are focusing, I will say 60%, 50, 40, depends on the product, on manual validations. And then if there is a critical path that we need to make sure that over and over it's working, we should focus that on automation.
So why can't we automate everything?
We might be able to automate everything, but we work in a complex environment. We have multiple markets, multiple languages. We don't own the content because the content is owned by the brand itself, the agencies that are working closer to the market. So sometimes it's not really easy to automate everything, and you need also to think about maintainability when you want to.
That must be really hard with I mean, we've got like 6,000 dealers and hundreds of people putting content in. How do the QA engineers manage that level of complexity?
So those are not just managed by the quality assurance, they are the ones that maybe suffer more, because you are missing in one way the data that is the input to your applications. And other side, what is the output is a fancy website with the content ready and all the applications integrated. When you lower the environment, so where we are doing most of our tests, both things are not fitting together. So it's not really easy to do that. The most practical way is for us to do isolation architectures, so you can be able to test your product, your service in isolated way. Of course, then you need to think about integrations as well.
Right. That's really interesting. So on a more broader question, so what's your first memory of technology?
Oh my God. I don't know. Maybe playing with my father's old laptop running Windows 98.
How old were you?
30.
30. So pretty late, not like younger, not as a kid, you weren't playing around with the mouse and things like that?
I'm from the countryside, so I'll say that most of my childhood, is that way?
Yeah, that's a good English word.
So was spent on nature and on the field, riding bicycles and so on. But at some point, yeah, the laptops, not laptops, the personal computers, the PlayStation appeared and of course took part of our life.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. So DevSecops, big topic nowadays. How would you describe DevSecops to someone who doesn't know about technology? I know it's a hard question.
Yeah, so I'll say you know about DevSecops, right? So imagine that you over there doesn't know anything about DevSecops. Imagine that you want to build a kitchen and you will need to bring together multiple experts, right? But you want to save money, so what you do is you try to manage each of those suppliers independently. In the end, arrive the fridger that you ordered in some e-commerce, and the fridger doesn't fit the box that was supposed to. Who is the problem? It's you that didn't plan it correctly. It was the guy that built the box that didn't read the requirements correctly, or was the guy that delivered the fridger without the right requirements.
Which is it? What's the answer? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so that's the problem. If you go round and try to figure out who made the mistake, you are just losing time, right? So that's what DevSecops is intended to be, is before you start the planning, start building a solution, you bring everyone together during the entire process.
The dev, the sec, the ops,
Exactly.
all those people.
Exactly. So you are bringing development, operations, security, and in this context, you can include quality in the development practices, of course.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I like that.
in the real world, that's a way where you can bridge the concepts.
Yeah.
In our industry is way focused on bringing topics like not just development, because development is while you develop a feature, but bringing monitoring, bringing security, bringing the right concepts that while you are not just developing, but you are running an application live on production, you are able to do the proper support.
And that's huge. That's huge to us being successful, right?
That's key.
We don't throw stuff over the fence.
No.
And somebody else takes care of it, and the refrigerator doesn't match the washer and fit.
Yeah, that's key. That's the biggest challenge while we develop software modern applications.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about manual testing. So what are the disadvantages and advantages of doing manual testing?
I'm here to tell you a bit about advantages and disadvantages of manual and test automation. So I would like to start with test automation, as it is my favorite of these two, or the one I put more of my time into. And this is because this type of test provides efficiency to the teams, as you can test larger amounts of features faster. And also, this type of test can run continuously. So every time we want, like when there's some change introduced to an environment. I think the main disadvantage is that the maintenance of these tests, especially the UI automated tests, and in an environment with multiple teams that are working together, as a lot can change, you need to be on top of all those changes that may interfere with your automation. Also, the code verifies what you told it to verify, and there are some details that the human eye can catch better. And this is, with this I'm coming into the manual testing topic, because there are some stuff that the human just can catch faster, at least these days. We don't know when AIs will be able to take over on this. And yeah, you can always be more flexible when these requirements change and make the check yourself, the verifications. For disadvantages about manual testing, it can be very time consuming and repetitive. Also, different testers can look at a test somewhat differently, contrary to the code, because what you give is what you get. And also, manual testing can become very expensive if the requirements keep on changing. Yeah, in the end, what's important is to understand that both these types of testing are complementary to each other, and what matters is that your software is in good health and well tested.
If you look to the type of resources, usually manual testers are way cheaper comparing to automation engineers, because they are developing code, and the challenges are completely different. So let's focus first on manual. Manual, you'll have the biggest advantage that everything that you are doing, you have the human sense. And for short period of time projects, manual could be the right solution.
Quick, fast, get it
Fast, small approaches, things that
done.
are
Not repeatable.
Not repeatable. Yeah, of course, that is intended with the timeline, right?
Right.
But now, if you want to scale something, manual won't be the solution. Or if you want to repeat over and over, imagine that you are running a long time project and product. I mean, sorry, yeah. So if you are
Inside joke.
yeah, if you are running a long time product, of course, you will need to deliver code over and over, and then manual is not the solution.
It costs too much because you have to do it over and over and over again, where we can have a computer.
Exactly.
Do it.
That's where automation comes in place. Automation comes to solve those problems, so scalable, you can reuse it, repeatable, and reusable, I mean, while you develop an automation framework, you should always think and use the same concepts while developing code. That is, the architecture of your framework should allow as much as possible.
Test-driven development.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But we still have negative sides on automation, of course. You have maintenance, you lose all these human sense. That means it's a script, so whatever it's out of the scope of the script, it's not being validated.
And also the automated tests grow over time. And I've been in situations where the amount of maintenance to maintain the automated test was more than the maintenance to maintain the code.
Yeah.
Have you experienced, a negative like that just in the maintenance process?
Yeah, of course, and especially when people think about test automation, things about end-to-end testing, that those are the ones that you shouldn't grow so much, and because are the ones that cost more on maintenance. So having the right set of tests for your application is also key. So that plays a really important role when you design a test strategy. You really need to think about all those concepts and not just what we need for today.
We at MB.io embrace the DevSecops mindset. That means that we start looking at production exactly from the first commit, okay, and see production as a byproduct of the things that we do on a daily basis. With that said, on production side, you can see our developers doing monitoring, you can see them doing troubleshooting, you will see them also doing bug fixing, because with all of the checks that we have, all of the security measures, all of the safeguards that we have, sometimes things still break in production. Also on that side, we will also see our developers doing some security checks, and that's basically what we do on a daily basis.
Tell us about the different types of people who are involved in the production operations of a software system.
Got it. So there are few, I would say, teams or experts that are involved. We have the development teams, where we can include all the roles involved. Then it depends on the product team. You might have, for example, security experts included, or the development team itself have that knowledge. You will have, of course, infrastructure that is key to keep running our production environments, and as well the support team. I'll say those four.
In the support team, those are like the service managers, and for us, they're managing incidents and postmortems.
Exactly, and triggering, of course, the development teams when a third level support is required.
Yeah, and they all have to work together, and that's the whole DevSec.
Exactly, so
concept.
That's where everything fits together.
All right, so tell me, key principles that a development organization focuses on to give customers the best experience.
In order to ensure the best customer experience, as an organization, we must invest in the right technology so that we can deliver the best customer journey and also constantly enhance the customer experience. The next thing is Conway's Law. Our architecture should not be dependent on our organizational structures, but this is often the case, and it will continue to be the case. We need to be consciously aware of that and use it to our advantage so that we can really give the cutting-edge solutions that our customers rightfully demand from us.
So, from my perspective, of course, right, it's all about, that's why the interview is to me.
Luís, it's all about you.
So, I love when I order something and I don't like it, whatever, and I have a top product support behind. So I guess this is the key part of an organization when you want to keep your customers happy, when you want to listen your customers. It's not just about, okay, you don't like this item, I'll drive it back or whatever. It's about taking deep learnings, really listening your customer and take those insights through your product organization.
So it's attention first, you want to feel heard, but then you also want to see the changes showing up.
Of course. And sometimes in big corporations, you see that sometimes this knowledge from the customer is not really, is being taken, but is not being drilled down as it should be. So it's really important, this close connection from the feedback loops and including those loops into our practices.
Yeah, and that's part of the luxury experience that we want our customers. They experience luxury in our vehicles. We want to have them have that same luxury experience with our software.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the key principles of Mercedes. If you look at all initiatives, for example, Customer Day, all the feedbacks that are being collected. I'm not really an expert on that, but I also know that personalization is a big topic for you to be able to shape the right customer experience.
Right. So, difficult problem. How do you manage dependencies between different systems? What are the DevSecops principles to do that? Because we have almost 1,000 different systems that we connect up to inside of Mercedes-Benz with other external vendors like payment systems.
Exactly.
Things like
Maybe
that.
to put that in perspective, back to 3 or 4 questions ago, you asked me about the quality topics, right? And I bring the example of how challenging it is to consume service that you don't own the data,
Right.
and at some point content that you also don't own, that is owned by the agencies.
Right.
So if you put this in perspective and add the complexity of consuming multiple systems, or when you look to a page on our website and you imagine that behind it there are 5-6 product teams, and behind those product teams you have an amount of services, and those services consume other services.
I'm getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's
Right,
where,
that's what our life is like.
That's our life, right? So that's where it's really important, this question. And I will say around 4 things that are key. One is rely on contracts versioning. That's key to keep...
Like with the APIs,
Exactly,
the microservices.
exactly. And apply contract testing on services that you really need to rely on those contracts. That's key. The second thing is set quality gates over all your organization, so you don't get products being impacted by the low performance, the low ability to deliver quality in other services that they depend on. The third thing will be to define SLOs all over your organization. That's SLO, service level objectives, that you really need to keep up to certain numbers. For example, availability. Imagine that one service might be always available, but this service depends on another one. And if this service is around 70% of the year available, that causes impact all over the dependencies that it has.
Right. So one of the challenges you and I talk about a lot is for tying those services all together, like in the end-to-end customer journey. So what are some of the things you do to work with teams who might deliver their service and be really comfortable with that, but with it being part of a larger chain of events? How do you work with teams to bring that visibility to them?
I'm not really sure if I understood the question.
End-to-end monitoring. So like end-to-end.
Okay, initiatives that we bring in to come all together into the same.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I guess here it's also important to put in perspective. When our teams are delivering, they are able to deliver alone, but
Right.
they deliver it to a huge piece that
Right.
is our website.
And they might have their own SLOs that they're meeting successfully or think they're meeting successfully, but being part of a larger
Exactly.
chain.
Exactly. That's why it's important when we are thinking about initiatives. We are not just thinking about okay, we need to think isolated, but we always need to bring initiatives all over. And those initiatives we are talking about, okay, bringing the right monitoring concepts, not just from the beginning, but all the entire chain. If you see, for example, our customer journey, it passed through so many products, and you want to make sure that the experience of searching is so good as well as the checkout. And that's like a huge chain and of complexity, and it's not an easy topic, to be honest. It's amazing to see how complex those problems are, and there is not one right solution.
Yeah, and you mentioned monitoring. So one of the big ways we do this is through dashboards that show the customer journey and bring that visibility to all the teams.
Exactly, and those dashboards have the data concept behind, right? So being data-driven, taking those information into your refinements, bringing these into your plannings, it's key to make sure that you are moving into the right direction.
Yeah, because everything we do is data-driven.
Yeah,
right? It's got to be.
It should be.
It should be. It's got to be based on fact.
Yeah.
Right. I want to thank everyone for listening to Luís and I talk about this. I hope you really enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on Beyond Tech.
Ciao, ciao.